This training video will show you how to access Limelight within Power Studio to look at your common assessment results. The first thing we need to remind ourselves is that when we look at data, as Doug Reeves says, this is a treasure hunt, and we have to know that we truly hold the keys in our classrooms, in our grade levels, and in our buildings in order to make the best decisions for our kids. And so as we look at the numbers in the data and the GLEs, just keep that in mind. Look for the positives. If you're sitting at a data team with your grade level, or you're building your a math data team, we're kind of looking here at step 1 and 2. We're trying to collect and chart the data using Limelight to gather that data, so as kids are entering, and then moving into step 2 now to looking at the strengths and the weaknesses of our particular kids. So as we get to the technical part of looking at Limelight, we're going to access it through Firefox. So on your desktop, you'll see this, and you'll double click on the Fox here. Okay. Now, Internet Explorer is what most of us are used to dealing with in the elementary, I think, and it's just much more efficient if we use Firefox. You'll see that as you open it up here in the upper left-hand corner that you're using a different web browser. It's just much more efficient. I've caught myself in Internet Explorer and it just is moving so slow. I kind of kick myself and say, all right, get out of it and go back in the other way. So as we have Firefox opened up, we're going to access Power Studio underneath the academic tab like the kids have been doing. Or if you see Power Studio on the portal, you can access it there also. When you sign in, you're going to use your employee ID number and then your last name with a capital letter followed by your employee ID number. So if I'm Harry Truman, I'm going to type Truman with a capital T and then A12345 is my employee number, and then sign in. When you get to the sign-in sheet, you're going to see your name up here and you're going to see your school, okay, and the classes that you teach. And then as kids saw online tests, we see managed tests. So you can click down here. And then here's the first screen that we will see when we're actually into the manage the tests area. We're going to go directly to test reports. And I see all of the classes that I teach, and because this is blue highlighted, I can tell this is a 3rd grade class and they have a math test that's actively assigned to them. And here's the active assignments down here. I'm going to click on this assignment, okay, and then I'm also going to click on this quiz. And then this is a screen that we will use the most to analyze the results. So once you get here, kind of take a deep breath. I know in some of the best trainings that I've been a part of is that there's been a video, and then I've also had the web opened, and so I can do the same thing, pause the video, try it out myself, pause the video, because there's just only so much information we can take in all at once. And so feel free to do that. You can pause this now and open up Power Studio, and so you can look at your real data, or feel free to just do whatever fits your needs. All right. So here we are looking at our item assessment. There are 3 different views, categories that we can look at. We've got the item assessment, which drills into each question of the test. Then we have the student proficiency, which kind of puts kids into categories. Think of the MAP test, advanced, proficient, basic, below basic. We just use straight percentage cut points as a start here. We know that if you score 90%, that doesn't mean that you're advanced. Possibly you definitely could be, but you could have missed a power standard, and so we know that we want to drill into those also. And then we also have the standard assessment, and this is going to link all of those questions that are tied to a particular GLE together. And so we'll be able to really look at the GLEs at that point. Okay, so I'm on the graph view here. Within these 3 categories, I have 3 options, and we're going to look at the graph view first. Okay. So as I hone in here, I know that I want to look lots of different things to look at. But if I go to this little bar down here, I'm questioning what in the heck was going on there. Is that indeed a good item on the test? Is it something that I've already taught in my core curriculum this year, or is this something that I'm going to be starting to teach in a couple of weeks? So you really have to keep that in mind. I know that this is question number 19 on the test, and that 15% of my kids were able to get that question correct. Okay, now I need more information. I need to drill into this. So if I click down, I can see it will bring up a pop-up box. You can see the actual test question, and I definitely recognize this as making change from $5. And I need to scroll all the way down. I've tried to put two screenshots together so we can see most of what it offers us. C was the correct answer. And if I look at my answer distribution, I can see how many kids chose A, how many chose B, and C, I knew that those were 3 kids that were represented with that 15%. But there are 6 kids who said none of these. So that gives me some other information to kind of process how they were attacking this problem. If you scroll all the way down, it gives you other information as far as the actual GLEE label, what is making change from $5. But these are the things that I look at the most. We've been on the graph view. Now we're going to go to this tree view right here. And so I have a school view of the number of kids who were able to get each of these questions correct. Okay. And now I'm on my teacher view. Okay. And so I can actually see the individual kids and if they indeed got that question correct. So I knew that quite a few of my kids got question number 1 correct. Okay. And then now I can go to question number 2. Well, these 2 students missed question number 2. Just kind of a real quick view to see at the student level. But I'm on that tree. Now we're moving to the student proficiency view. Okay, and we're back at the graph. Now, this just gives me those categories again of kind of labeling kids into who was able to get 80% of the questions right, 90%, etc. So if I hover over this 10%, the kids who were able to score at least 80% or higher, if I click down on that, it's going to give me a pop-up box and it's going to tell me the names of my kids and their actual score. So Dana and Alexis were able to get 83 and 81% of the total test. Okay. Now, more concerning is who are these 55% little friends who, didn't get at least 60%. Lots of things to drill down into. Okay. But these 2 girls show the strength here. Okay. Now I'm moving down to the standards assessment, and I'm back at the graph view. Okay. Now, this is where it ties all of the questions that have the same GLEE together. And so if I look at this 3rd bar here, I can see that quite a few of my kids were able to get A2A correct. Okay. So there were 9 kids who were able to score 90% on A2A. Okay. If I click down on that, I'll get those kids' names. Okay. But then I'm thinking, well, who are these little friends over here? Okay. If I click down, as I hover over there, if I click down, it's going to tell me those kids. And maybe there were 2 questions on A2A because some got 50% and some got 0%. So that makes me think there's probably 2 questions that they were asked. Okay. So this might be kind of turning your wheels as far as if this GLEE is indeed a priority for my kids, and I know I've already taught this to them, then I might need to kind of differentiate their morning work, just do some things, kind of think outside the box for that. Again, it has to be a priority though, and we have to know that those 2 items were indeed measuring what we needed to measure. We have to look at the test questions. Okay. Now we're at the tree view. Okay, we're at tree and standard. And I can tell my school that in 3C, we were able to get 35% of the points on the N3C questions. Now I know numbers and operations. N3C is that computation. And so that might be a little concerning. I might need to dig into those items and see what else was happening there. Now, quickly, I can go here to 73% on N1A, and I can do a little celebration here. That is indeed pretty strong. Again, I need to dig in and see what were those items looking like for my kids. Okay. If I actually go to the table view, okay, again, I'm on table and the standards. It's going to give me the GLE. It's going to give me that description to remind me, gosh, what was, you know, what was N3C. There's that computation, okay, N3C. 16 of my kids failed it. Well, I knew that from that bar. 4 of my kids were able to get 90%. That was that 35% were able to answer that question correctly that we looked at earlier. Okay, so this is another quick view to see the kids and the different percentages. Now I can export this if I want to into an Excel document so I can manipulate it, maybe attach names to it, whatever I want to do. Or I can download it to Adobe. Okay. If I export it to Excel, this is kind of just what it will look like. Then I can prioritize. I'm thinking that not all of these GLEs are created equal, and I might want to prioritize my data talk with my team. Okay. I'm on the table view, and again, we're up here at item assessment here, so I can tell that I can sort these by the tiers of kids. 55%, they were able to get 32 questions of the 58 questions, and that this particular kid would fall into that fail category. We see an 80% kid here, 47 out of 58. It's just another quick view. You're going to have to find which one kind of speaks to you and what works in your mind. There's just so many different options to look at here. Okay, so this was very quick as far as the technical part of the software. Take some time just to play with the data, drill into it, create questions for your team, your grade level, and your school. What questions do you have about this data? We know it's a treasure hunt. We also know that the state testing is approaching, and with all of the snow days, it truly has to be a treasure hunt. It's knowledge. If we don't have the information, we can't fix it. And so what Limelight has challenged us now is that we have the information. We're not spending hours and hours grading the assessments. Now we can actually do something with it in a more timely manner. And so we do hold the keys. We hold the keys to make those decisions within your building, within your classroom. As we look back at that data team process from Doug Reeves, we see we've been collecting and putting the data into Limelight. We're trying to analyze what we're good at and what we're not so good at with those obstacles. If we prioritize, what does this tell us? What's one thing? What are we going to make as a priority? And what are we going to do about it? What is our priority? And how are we going to get better at that? That's kind of where we are now after we look at the data and kind of reflect. Again, Doug Reeves has some tips here. So as we look at this, definitely we have to laugh and cheer. We have to laugh. Otherwise, we might be crying, right? We have to go beyond the test scores. We know that there's the story behind each and every kid who walks through your door every day. And sometimes it's hard, but we know this tip 3 that the numbers speak, and they speak loud and clear. The numbers challenge us to ask deeper questions. Okay, and then we can focus on the next steps. Don't dwell on the past. Don't beat yourself up and make excuses for things about the kids weren't able to even come to school. Let's just focus on what we need to do next. It is what it is, but we can always refine and do what we need to do. That reflection within your grade level and within your building. What does this tell us? Okay. And that truly those truly are 5 good tips. Just keep in mind as you move forward with looking at the data.